Oh, Manchester City going through a bit of a crisis right now. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. And yes, today's video is going to be centering around this club right here, Manchester City. And we're asking the question of whether or not City are going through a period of adversity in which they have never seen or experienced before, or whether or not this is just a typical slight dip in form for City, and Guardiola will eventually come out smelling like roses with the answers and, of course, the possibility of turning City's season into another successful one. We're going to be asking that question. We're going to be talking about Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings on Manchester City and everything else that you've got to say about them. Use and abuse that comment section, people. Talk to me on this because it is a very intriguing topic right now in the world of football. So please do get involved. Right, now that that's out of the way and done with, let's get on with talking about Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, and the mini slump in form that City find themselves currently going through. It's an interesting one, isn't it? The main reason why this video has been brought to light and why it's becoming a big topic in the world of football right now is obviously because Manchester City have lost 3 games on the bounce, 3 games in 3 different competitions. They got knocked out the Carabao Cup. They got beat by Bournemouth, ending their unbeaten start to the season. And then on Tuesday night, they got absolutely slapped up by Sporting Lisbon and Ruben Amorim, to much of the delight of a lot of football people, but also more to the delight of Manchester United fans excited to see their new manager in action. But even before those 3 games, City's performances and results haven't exactly been convincing. Yes, they've got the points when it mattered most, but they were very, very lucky in certain games. They were scraping through in certain games, and the defeats this week have been ones that have been coming for a long time, it seems. Okay, the Carabao Cup, they may not take too much heart from that. They may not even care. Some of them were even seen laughing on the bench as they lost to Tottenham on that day. But the game against Bournemouth, the game against Sporting, 2 losses. One should have been, the Bournemouth game, they arguably could have scored more. So the loss was coming in the Bournemouth game, and the hammering and the reality check that Sporting obviously delivered them on Tuesday was obviously a long time in the making as well, seemingly. And everyone's trying to find answers to the questions. Why is City going through this form? Is this the typical City form that we normally see them go through in the autumn? Because if you remember, last season, they lost to the likes of Wolves and Arsenal back to back. I think they even drew to Tottenham straight afterwards. And people were asking these same questions and doing these kinds of videos of Manchester City in crisis back then. I think maybe even if you go further back through the years, I'm sure that City may have actually slipped up a couple of times in the early stages of the season. So it's not completely out of the ordinary for City to go through these patches of form. And usually what happens is that Guardiola eventually finds the answers to his problems and then comes out smelling like roses, like I say. They normally take whatever competition they fancy by storm, and they eventually get their hands on some silverware come the end of the campaign. But I've got to say, as much as I think that still could be the case, this time around it does feel a little different. I would still back Man City and Guardiola to find a solution to their problems. Even if it is just a solution that basically says, let's get to January and see what the January transfer market is saying. But one way or another, I would still, because of history, back Guardiola to find a solution to his problems. But like I say, there is a little part of me that is getting a bit optimistic that maybe, just maybe, this isn't Guardiola's year. This isn't Manchester City's year. They're not going to make it 5 Premier League titles in a row. And of course, simultaneously, of course, that could really play into the hands and favour of my club of Liverpool. But that may be another conversation for another day. Let's focus on Manchester City here. There's a little part of me that thinks this is adversity that City are facing right now, in the likes of which they have never faced before. And a main bulk of that is Rodri. Now, a lot of City fans are burying their heads in the sand about this. And they are basically saying, yes, Man City and Guardiola will together find a solution to their problems. This is nothing to be worried about. This is nothing to be afraid of. This is just something they're going through, a mini crisis in the season, and together they will work it out. Some City fans are calling out certain aspects of the club. Rodri's injury is obviously a massive one, but they are looking at other aspects of the club. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk a little bit about Rodri. We're going to talk a little bit about the squad and how it's been pieced together over the years. And then, of course, in the mixture of all that, we're going to talk City's problems. So we're going to start, obviously, with Rodri's injury, as we previously mentioned. It's a massive one. It's a huge one, because Rodri is such a massive part and a massive cog in the Pep Guardiola machine that while City have players that can obviously replace him man for man, they don't have anybody that can replace his talent, his leadership, his composure. All of that stuff, both mentally and physically, that Rodri produces. And you're seeing it on the pitch. Because ever since he's been absent, City have lost control. City don't have control on games no more. And the more that teams realise that, the more human they're seemingly becoming. Before, people used to look at them like a machine, like a great white shark. Now, we see them a little vulnerable. Teams are starting to fancy their chances. Yes, of course, it's still Manchester City at the end of the day. They're still going to create chances themselves. They're still going to be strong. They're still going to be amazing to watch at times. But teams are starting to realise there's a bit of vulnerability there. Teams are starting to realise there's a bit of weakness within this Manchester City team that has been reinforced so many times and strengthened up so many times in transfer markets and things like that, that some were saying they could go invincible. Some were saying they just simply cannot be beat. They can. They can. And we've seen it already this season, and we've seen it 3 times in the past week alone. Rodri is a massive part of that. What we've seen from Manchester City over the past several weeks since his injury has been a team that has lacked control, somewhat lacked leadership in the midfield. And I know it's not just Rodri. You can also pin it down to maybe the absence of like a Kevin De Bruyne, for example, and maybe 1 or 2 injuries that City have also had, like Kyle Walker. I know he's not that great in my opinion, but he still has leadership value. Maybe even like an in and out of John Stones, in and out of Ruben Diaz, that kind of thing. But he's obviously been a massive part of the City machine for a while, and his record with him in comparison to without him speaks for itself. He has been phenomenal. He has been absolutely phenomenal for Manchester City over the years. And rightfully so, the Ballon d'Or winner. And if you are ever to make a case for Rodri, just look at how City have performed these past few weeks without him in comparison to when they are with him. That alone should be enough for the Vinicius Junior lovers to actually go, you know what, maybe they were right in giving Rodri the Ballon d'Or, because look at what's happened with City now. Simple as that. City in recent weeks have been lacking in control. They are not the same measured, composed team that they are under Rodri. They are lacking in creativity. Not necessarily all down to Rodri, but Rodri is still a big part in that and a big platform to obviously build the creativity off. And obviously he can chip in with a few goals and a few assists here and there as well. He has come up clutch in some big moments for Manchester City over the years. But defensively, they are leaking chances. They're often even going a goal down early in games to these teams. They're often losing the first goal. Now, many people do expect City to come back, and City have done. But it's not exactly been entirely convincing. And there's only so long that you can do that for before you get caught. Bournemouth did that on Saturday. Scored an early goal, held their own, scored a second goal, continued to hold their own, should have made it 3-4, maybe even 5-0. City got back into the game, made it for a nervy finale, but Bournemouth, like I say, held their own. Got the win, got the 3 points, got out of there with a huge victory for Andoni Iraola's side. Fantastic for him, fantastic for Bournemouth, fantastic for the Cherries fans who have never experienced in this modern era a victory over Manchester City. Fantastic. So Rodri's a massive miss. Rodri in this machine is a monumental miss in terms of his leadership, in terms of his defensive qualities, even in terms of his attacking qualities. Rodri is a massive miss. They can replace him with Kovacic, they can replace him with Nunes, but you're replacing a player for a player, and you're not replacing the talent for the talent. You're not replacing the quality for the quality. There's a massive drop-off there, and everybody sees it, everybody realises it, and the players themselves even know that. That's huge right off the bat. The second part is this injury crisis. Now, certain players aren't fully fit, haven't been fully fit, have been injured in and out the team. I get that. There's a lot of rotation there, but the world's smallest violin is being brought out by a lot of football fans. Just when you think you've got the smallest violin, another fan of a rival team will bring out an even smaller violin to play for Manchester City. This is a team and a squad that haven't really experienced injuries for a few seasons. It seems that they have been one of the less injury-hit teams over the course of recent years. And even when you do look at their injuries, like some of them are still fit enough to at least make it onto the bench in recent weeks. So it can't exactly be that much of a crisis if your players are still making it onto the benches, still getting like 10, 15, 20 minutes here and there. And not only that as well, but your club have agreed to go and play in the Club World Cup at the end of the season. You're choosing money over the fitness and well-being of your players, in which you are reportedly seemingly obligated to play a fully strength team, or as close to a full strength team as you can possibly get. No one has sympathy for you. Just like I didn't really have sympathy when Arsenal were gaming, oh, we got an injury crisis. No, you don't. You don't know what an injury crisis is until you're basically playing your kids. And the City fans are going, well, we've got kids on our bench. And then that leads me on to our next point. A poorly managed squad. And the City fans won't like this because once again, City fans are burying their head in the sand and not blaming Guardiola. But I've got to say that between Guardiola and your club, you've not exactly recruited well these past few years. The likes of Kovacic and Nunes, as much as when they happened, I basically said, look, they're not exactly signings that I would have put first on my list of transfers if I obviously had the unlimited funds seemingly of Manchester City, and of course the power of Manchester City being at the top of our game. But you know what? It's Guardiola's team, it's Guardiola's squad. If he's given this the green light, then the likes of Kovacic, the likes of Nunes, and whoever else you've bought over the past few years that hasn't quite exactly hit the mark, you give the benefit of the doubt to, because it's Guardiola and you trust in Guardiola's judgment. Now, you're looking at it like, well, Kevin De Bruyne's injury problems, I don't doubt his talent, but his injury problems are making him in and out of the squad. Rodri's obviously now injured. There's no proper backup for him. The defence is a bit unsettled, but again, they should all be capable enough of doing a job, you would imagine. Gvardiol's been consistent, yes, but whether it's Stones and Akanji or Ake and Diaz or a combination of two of those four, they should still be capable of doing a job. Rico Lewis has come in and bedded in well, and there's obviously a highly rated prospect to take over from Kyle Walker. They still should be strong enough in the back line, and then in the wing positions, whether it's Grealish, whether it's Grealish for 100 million, we definitely will need to talk about him at some point. Maybe not in this video, but at some point later down the line, we probably will need to talk about him. Doku, Savio, whoever, Bernardo Silva even playing in that position, whoever's playing in that position in the wings, definitely needs to improve their numbers and their output, regardless of whether they're playing 40 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever minutes, because it's just not good enough. And Haaland as well. Haaland, as exceptional and incredible as he would be for any team, and how much any team would love to have a striker like Erling Haaland in their team, again, if you're not feeding him the chances he needs, he's obviously not going to play well. But City don't have a backup because they sold Julian Alvarez in the summer and they didn't replace him. And that is a massive, massive error on City and Guardiola's part, because we know what we're going to get from Haaland. Ice cold finisher in front of goal, but he's not necessarily the most hard working. He's not necessarily going to put himself about and create and try to do other things. And that's a little bit where Guardiola's system somewhat falls down again, because over the years since he's gone with a more predominant number 9 role, and with Haaland, of course, City's role has been, City's primary objective has been give the ball to Haaland and he'll score. But what happens when you can't get the ball to Haaland? That's when other players need to step up, and the wingers don't step up. They're nice and easy on the eye. It's always nice to see Jeremy Doku run at his fullback. It's always nice to see a little bit of trickery from Jack Grealish. It's always nice to see. It's actually been nice to see Savio. I think he's got a little bit of flair and a bit of speed about him. But there's no end product. There's no end product from any of them. So if there's no end product, what are they doing? What are they doing? And it makes me think that the more and more that I see it, Haaland bails City out so much with his goals. But take Haaland out, City have got nothing going for them in the attack. They actually have one of the worst attacks in the league, in my opinion, simply because if Haaland's not scoring, no one else really is. Their second top goal scorer this season is Josko Gvardiol. Their left back. It's madness to me. It's actually madness to me. But I think some people are starting to realise this and starting to realise these problems. Some people are still burying their heads in the sand about it. They're still hiding behind what their team has done in the past. They're still hiding behind the so-called injury crisis. They're hiding behind the fact that Guardiola always seemingly gets it right. And you know what? I can't really blame them if they're trying to deflect from maybe the problems that I'm seeing and maybe a lot of other people are seeing. I think it's a case of a mixture of a poorly put together squad, a lack of leadership, a lack of maybe even a lack of quality in certain areas, or at least in key areas, to replace some of the big players for when they are out of the team. And I think it's a system as well which has become a little bit predictable over the past couple of years. And he's still a fantastic striker, Haaland, so he will get chances and he still will get goals, but you can neutralise it for the most part. So I do think it's a combination of loads of different things. Would I still rate Guardiola to maybe go on, find a solution, and maybe even go on and win the league? Yes, I put Arsenal to win the league at the beginning of the season. My opinion on that is slowly starting to change each and every single week, and now it's seemingly becoming between Liverpool and City, admittedly. But I'm going to stick with my opinion of Arsenal for now. But the more and more that I see of Arsenal, I'm starting to shift my opinion. And then even then, when it's between Liverpool and City, the more that I see of Liverpool and the more that I see of this City thing, I'm starting to maybe even shift my mind onto my beloved Liverpool. And that is amazing, but at the same time, I still would make us the third favourites out of the three. Right now. Ask me in a few weeks' time. Maybe ask me after Liverpool play Manchester City. I may have changed my mind by then. But things change over the course of a season. We know that. And right now, I would still probably back Guardiola to find a solution. Even if it is like a solution of let's just get to January and then buy a new DM, buy a new striker, buy a new winger, whatever the case may be. I would still back Guardiola to find that solution for his team and take the Premier League by storm. I get that. It's happened before, it'll probably happen again. But, like I say, something does feel different this time, and I think a big part of that is down to Rodri. But those are just my thoughts, my comments, my opinions, my predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this whole Manchester City situation? Is this down to injuries? Is this down to a poorly put together squad by City and Guardiola? Is this down to maybe Guardiola himself? Maybe there was another element in this that I didn't really talk about. Maybe it's mentality in these players. Maybe a lack of rotation in the squad over the past year or two has seen some of these players get a bit cocky, a bit confident, a bit stale, a bit bored. Winning the Premier League 4 times in a row, having that mentality to go a 5th time. Could that also have played a part in Manchester City's season so far this campaign? Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling though in the comments section down below. Would love to... My bad, I didn't realise my alarm was on. Would love to hear what you have to say. Your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you call it, will make for great interesting reading down below in the comments section. So thank you all for that. Hit the like button on the way up. Enjoy the video. Subscribe if you are new. Both things are always incredibly greatly appreciated. And of course, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Thank you all for your continued or even brand new support. It's very much appreciated by me. Thank you for supporting the channel. It means a great deal and always and forever will be appreciated. So once again, thank you very much for that. I've been Fletch, this has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers guys, thanks everyone for watching, take care, enjoy the rest of your day, speak to you all again very, very soon.